you also said you feel like the show host promotes traditional roles and purports it's all based in logic. I don't think the only way to have logically, in its literal sense, successful relationships is for them to follow traditional gender norms.
Yeah.
I think that's more interesting. So,
okay, yeah.
Yeah. What's your position?
That is my position, that successful relationships don't need to follow to a T strict traditional gender roles.
Yeah, so I mean, there can be exceptions.
Very sneaky wording, by the way.
Why?
Well, hang on.
Okay.
Have the exchange with Brian.
Yeah, so, I mean, there certainly can't, like, just because something is possible, one, doesn't mean it's probable. But I don't disagree, like, that you could have a relationship that does not follow traditional gender roles, and it could be a fantastic relationship. But in totality, accounting for, like, the billions of people that exist, I would say, generally speaking, yes, traditional gender roles are optimal.
Okay. I mean, I don't disagree with you. It asked for disagreements, and I just said I don't think the only way to have a successful relationship is to follow traditional gender roles. The question was whether you disagree with hosts. Successful, like a long-lasting, committed relationship.
Do you have obligations and duties?
Of course.
To society?
Of course.
Then why would you promote such relationships, even if they were successful?
Because then if you're engaging with those duties and upholding them, then...
Well, you can't be.
Okay.
So,
can you,
so the idea here is, if you agree that it's optimal to have whatever you consider traditional gender roles to be, you think that's optimal. Yeah? Not that it can't work the other way, from your view. Just what is optimal?
Then maybe I don't know.
You don't know what's optimal?
No, I know. Well then maybe I don't know what's optimal.
Well, then what's optimal?
No, maybe I don't know what's optimal.
You don't know what's optimal. Do you think that it's more optimal to have one parent working, one parent home with the kids?
I do think that's optimal.
Okay, well...
I would even say it's optimal.
Then how could you do that absent what you consider traditional gender roles to be?
In your mind, you're in...
Hang on, let her answer before the sisterhood chimes in.
Okay.
The sisterhood.
Could you repeat that one more time just so I...
How, if that is optimal, can you achieve that absent traditional gender roles?
Because couldn't you have that one parent be the husband rather than the wife?
Sure. Is that optimal?
I feel like potentially at the beginning, no, but then...
Well, then it's not optimal. And why isn't it optimal?
But then why couldn't you still say, then I don't think it's necessarily optimal for it to be
So why would you
long-term.
promote what isn't optimal?
No. Okay, so...
May I interject?
I think you could have something optimal,
listen,
because a traditional...
I'm going to just do this and sit this way. Let's do this.
Okay, so a traditional... I wish I could.
It's performative. What? I can't. A little bit of performative. That's not okay.
Scoot back. Yeah.
None of my uncles can
Okay.
Come on. That was funny.
Well, let's engage.
All right.
The traditional gender role would be the woman stays home and the man goes to work.
And why does a woman need to stay home early on?
Early on, it's because she's the mother, so she's mothering the child. There are certain roles.
Well, how do you feed babies?
That's what I'm getting to. So, like,
Okay.
only a mother can breastfeed, and that's about, I think, would be it in terms of like what the mother.
Oh, if you get into trans breast milk, God help you.
Wait,
but
what?
anyway,
No.
go ahead.
No.
All right,
Oh, okay.
She gave me this look. But anyway, go ahead.
And we're still just talking about optimal.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there are things, that there are different ways to successfully achieve
So it's optimal to have the mom stay home.
early on because of
Well,
the
when is it
necessity.
no longer optimal?
I would say once you don't need to breastfeed anymore,
Why would that no longer be optimal?
because I think that's kind of an optimal position. But as long as we're still considering that, as long as one parent is home and that's optimal while the other parent works, then I don't see why it still can't be optimal that, like, after breastfeeding is done, that the father could stay home and that the mother could work.
Yeah. What's a maternal bond that happens with breastfeeding?
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Do children bond with their mom better when they're breastfed?
I'm not sure.
The answer is yes.
Okay.
Of course they do. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
In fact, it's part of a bonding experience with children is that they breastfeed with their mother.
Okay.
So if the child's breastfeeding with the mother and then you take mom away, mom goes and works and now dad stays home, how's that optimal?
So, because I mean, why is it optimal that it's optimal that the baby has a stronger connection to mom than dad?
Why
Okay.
wouldn't it be?
Yes.
Of course.
Oh.
Well, I mean, at least for the surrogate years, right?
Yeah.
For these years
when
leading up.
Okay, then the bonding period, when does that kind of become inconsequential? Like, it's
I don't think it
optimal for
ever
a child
becomes.
to.
I don't think it ever becomes inconsequential. I think that when children bond with their mothers, especially when they breastfeed with them, this becomes a lifelong thing. There's an old saying, right? Even bad men love their mamas, right? The idea there is there's something which is maternal, which is necessary to the raising of a child, right? That dad can't do. Dad can give all the material wealth in the world. You know what I mean? That's great. Doesn't mean child won't love dad. It just means that if you're breastfeeding your child, there's going to be a connection there that is distinct and it's different. And by the way, as far as resources go, men generally are going to be able to provide better resources as well.
Yeah, financially.
Yeah. So if you're just looking at what's optimal, if you agree that this is optimal, in other words, if you say, okay, now we have a bonding component, we have mom at home. Mom also may have to stay home for another reason, which is that she has more than one kid. So if she has more than one kid, now she has 3-4 kids, right? Now she's at home for years breastfeeding, right?
Yeah.
How's that not optimal?
No, I see what you're saying.
So if it is optimal, right, then why wouldn't we push for what's optimal?
Because then I'll even, agree with you on everything you've stated.
Sure.
But like eventually there comes a point where the child or children as an aggregate are old enough that this bonding component is like, I guess, completed, right? Like that it's not like.
Okay, so mom has 3 kids. She's at home for 10 years. Okay.
And so then.
And so now, so why would it then be optimal, right?
For dad to come home and
for
mom
dad
work?
For dad to come home and mom to work. Can you explain that to me?
Okay, so.
No. Can you explain that to me?
Yes, yeah. I'm
okay,
trying.
explain.
So, because then I think it might actually be optimal because, say, mom could make the same amount of money that dad could make.
After being 10 years out of the workforce?
Yes. Just,
Okay.
engage with the hypothetical.
Sure, I'll engage.
Because then, yes, say she could, and then dad could come home, and it might be optimal because then he could grow this paternal bond that was kind of lacking from the maternal standpoint for those first 10 years.
So I just want to make sure I'll engage with a hypothetical by steel manning it first. Dad could come home 10 years in, and now there's a different bonding experience that kids get they would not ordinarily get if dad didn't come home, right?
And financially, they're still the same.
Yeah. And do you think that if we were to expand this out to, let's say, like 90 million families, right, that's actually how that's going to work? That dad should switch out of the provider role to move the provider role over to the mom that he's been in for 10 years. She's been in the maternal role, breastfeeding these kids for X amount of time, multiple children. Do you think if you expand that out society-wide that would be optimal?
I think...
Like, how would it even work? Like, you would be taking women who've been out of the workforce for 10 years and then saying, okay, these women somehow are going to be able to make the same amount of money that men are, bringing the bacon home, right? And then they're going to take over the function of the caregiver role that this woman has been experienced in for 10 years. How would that ever be optimal?
Well, I think it would have to come, I'm coming from the position that this would have had to always have been like the idea.
Let's assume it
between the
is.
couple.
Let's just assume, I'm going to be as charitable as
Yeah,
possible.
yeah.
This was always the way it was.
Yeah. And
right?
then
How
because I also
in the
think-
world can you could you intercede the skill of dad's now at home, right? He doesn't have the same skills she does after 10 years of doing that. She doesn't have the same skills he does after 10 years in the workforce. How in the world would that be optimal versus the reverse if he stays in the role of making the money and she stays in the role that she has the most experience in?
I think in this scenario, you would also have to, we would also have to engage with the idea that society might need, we need a stronger sense of community, whether it's familial, so family.
Church, sure, yeah.
Yes.
Agreed, yeah.
And so then I would think that these two things would actually become much like right now, if this happened, it would be hard because I think there is kind of a lack of strong communities. And
even if you set it up to happen this way,
then I think
why if you had a strong community, would that in any way offset this?
Because then these two components are like not as impactful towards the like it wouldn't be as like,
so you want to
oh
outsource
my god, everything's trade.
So you want to outsource the kids?
No.
Well, then how does the community help?
You're not. It's just supplementing what's there already.
Outsourcing.
No. Because outsourcing to me would be like grandparents.
Somebody else
walk.
doing things.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that.
So what is the community doing here? What heavy lifting
They're
are they doing?
supplementing. They're not
Supplementing how?
like they're just. It's communal. Like everything is done by everyone except the things that need to be done.
That would be outsourcing.
I mean, outsourcing what, everything? Because I don't think one person or two
yes,
people
you can
should do
outsource. You
everything.
can literally outsource everything. But
No, I know you can outsource everything.
So
I'm
what are we
saying you
talking
should
about? What is
not
the community doing here? Give me examples of what the community is doing.
So like cooking meals could be a
Okay, so that would be
thing.
outsourcing the cooking from the mom.
No, but maybe she engages, like, imagine communal living. So maybe take like families that live in multi-generational houses. So like
They're all related though.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything
Fortunately,
wrong.
guys, I'm going to allow you to each make a final 30 30 seconds.
So I'll give you the last
30
word.
minute.
I'll give
Yeah.
you the last
Like,
word.
yo,
You
where's
each-
that popcorn?
You can each have a 30-second final statement on this topic.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I don't actually even understand ultimately the argument when we reduce it very quickly.
Okay.
If mommy's staying home for 3 kids, right? Or even 4 or 5 or whatever, she's going to be home for X amount of years. Her skill set is going to be in homemaking. Dad's skill set is going to be at work. Why would dad leave high-paying work job that he's been at for 10 years to come home and take over the homemaking so she can get an entry-level job? That's insane.
For connection with the
That
family.
yeah, but even then,
I think that would be optimal.
what's broken? They still have a connection with working dad. Like there's nothing there that's broken.
A
So
stronger connection.
it's
I'm just
you
saying it
haven't
would be
demonstrated
optimal.
how
It's
it
a
would be
different
weakened.
bonding.
So the thing is like ultimately
Weakened.
what you're
weaker
talking
in
about doing
comparison
is
to
you're
what-
talking about having an external community come in and supplement for the offset of the money versus the skill set. That's insane, because then all people would have to do this for all other people. You would just be right back in the same condition that you were in before. Now you're just outsourcing more time to these things. It makes no sense to me.
Lose money.
So I'll give you the last word. Go ahead.
Final word for you. Go ahead.
I don't have any final
Okay,
words.
cool.